We are back.
Oh, my brain's too fast.
We are
Yeah, we're
back.
back again.
And thank you for coming back again. And once again, the Biha, we're talking about these beautiful books that we read together. Yeah, the Avatar series.
Yeah.
So we had a whole bunch we touched on last time that was actually just so much that we got into that we were starting to dive deep towards the end there. But if you want to continue to touch on some of the points, I remember we were talking about Lao Ge, we were talking about Janju, we were talking about, of course, Kyoshi and Rangi and the other characters. But what are some of the points that you wrote down that we didn't get to last time? Do you want to touch on?
Hmm. We did touch up on the meditation part with the Laga, right? We did. Okay. So, um, yeah, what didn't we talk about? It's so much good in this book
Yeah.
that, yeah, it's so much good that I really don't know where. But
Mhm.
we talked about when she was talking about teach me how to kill.
And
Um,
also with the chakras too. They had a conversation about, the chakras being open or closed. And he was telling her that when he has students, he likes them to be all open or all closed.
Yeah, I love that part. I didn't actually wrote that one down, but I really love that. Like, what's your
And,
understanding of that? I think I explained a little bit of my understanding before, but what is your understanding of someone who has like all their chakras open and someone that has all their chakras closed? What do you think it means by that?
because it sounded like he didn't want to spend his time with a student who had, a few open and a few closed, or one open and the rest closed. But if they were all open, it's like, okay, I can work with you. But if they were all closed, it's like, okay, we can work with you. It just, for some reason, it made sense to not be unbalanced,
Mm,
to be able either all open or all closed, and to not just have something here and there be like wishy-washy with the chakras. It's very interesting how they talk about energy.
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I like that way of seeing it. But I would also think the same way because of when some people are wrapped around an idea, it's harder for them to work with them. But if someone comes to me with all their chakras closed, now they're curious. I can show them a path, you know? And if someone have already opened it, you know where they are at the same time, you know. But if it's like in the middle, I don't want to be working with you because I don't think you know where you are. So I get
Mm.
it. Yeah, I think last what we dropped off was how someone's help can be hurting someone else. I think was it
Mm.
a Jinju who said it, or who was it who said that?
How
That
someone's help can hurt.
like no matter, like, I think it was Lago who said, you know, I think it was when when he was asking her to kill the young kid,
Mm-hmm.
and she didn't want. She always wanted to be fair, so he was explaining to her, you can never be fair.
Mm.
So if you do this harm, that harm, no, if you do this thing that you think is going to help somebody, it's going to hurt something else. I
Mm.
can't remember, but it was one part where he was saying, no matter what choices you make, it's going to hurt somebody.
Okay. Okay.
Do you remember that
So
chapter?
so it's almost like there's no option or choice that we can make that doesn't have resounding consequences.
Exactly. There's something that's like 100% fair. I think that's what he was trying to explain to Kyoshi during her choices in life. You know, you can never be fair, but you have to just align with one mission. At least you know why you're doing that, you know? But you can never be 100% fair with everybody in the world. You know, your
Okay.
actions cannot be helping everybody. It can be hurting
Mm.
somebody, you know? So,
And how to make peace with that, when we get caught up in trying to make the right decision or make the right choice or have the right karma or the right consequences. How do you make peace with not knowing if you did the right thing, you know?
I think it's just knowing that right and wrong is connected to perspectives. Your right is somebody else wrong. you're wrong and someone else right. So if you just settle with that idea of just knowing that there is nothing that's right and wrong, it's just a choice that you're making actually, then you settle with that idea. Your right is
Okay.
not my, your right cannot be everybody's right, right?
Okay.
By
So
understanding
has
that. Go ahead, go ahead.
understanding what?
No, understanding that part of like your right is not everybody's right, then you would never
Mhm.
have to preach. You would never tell people like, hey, this is right and what you're doing is wrong, because there is no such thing.
Okay. So had you been in Kiyoshi's position, had you been in the position she was with Lao Ge in the chamber with, the young king or the young emperor, as it were, and faced with the task of either taking him out so that the consequences wouldn't ripple out through the kingdom or letting him live, what would you have chosen?
It is a tough choice. I think we encounter that in life, but not in the same degree. But there are some things that you can eliminate because of its consequences in life. And you
Mm-hmm.
know it, but maybe it's not morally okay at the moment, but then it escalates. So it's a very hard choice. I think I would do like her. I would just leave it alone because my heart
Mm.
wouldn't align with it. So and then I would have to deal with the consequences.
Okay, so you would follow your heart
Hmm.
and you would deal with the consequences. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Following your heart and dealing with the consequences. It's kind of like, she when she realized that she was the avatar
Hmm.
and that it actually uh Yoon, that June wasn't the avatar. And he had already been preparing for like years or something,
Hmm.
training for years and traveling around the world and making appearances and political, schemes and political things and creating teams and forming alliances with different kingdoms and countries and continents and having people believing that he was the avatar when actually he was just an earthbender,
Hmm.
you know? And
I
she
know.
was the avatar. So, dealing with that and not wanting to come out, not wanting to reveal this, even though it's only going to get worse in the long run.
Hmm. I know.
So that was a big choice to make. That was a tough choice to make because it's like, okay, here's the friendship that she has with somebody who believes that there's something that they're actually not.
I know.
And they've been told that there's something that they're actually not. And not only are they not, but she is.
Yeah.
And it's like the closest people to you can affect you the most.
Yeah. In that situation, I feel like it's hardest for it's for both of them actually. You know, like June, for example, even though he heard Kyoshi might be from Kelson, when Kelson first find out that she may be the avatar, and June may heard, that he may not be the avatar. Still, he didn't believe it until the monster told him, "You're not the avatar." He just didn't believe it. It was like
Right.
something rooted in him that thought that was a joke. Like,
Right.
even though, he loves Kyoshi and he will protect her and everything, and he would love her to have that. It's just,
Mhm.
it was just a mental dilemma somehow. And she didn't want it. She wished she
Mhm.
wasn't. But it's not a choice somehow. That was a collective choice that was made for her because I think if the choice was left for Kyoshi to choose either she is the avatar or not, or give it to June, she would have given it to June. If it
Mhm.
was something she could hand out, she would have given it to him. So,
Mhm. Yeah, that's true, Navita, because on two fronts. For one, what you just said made me think that oftentimes, they say that for some people, seeing is believing,
mhm.
and for other people, believing is seeing, you
Mm.
know? So some people can know something, like you said, know it in your heart, and then they believe it in the mind. But some people have to see it with their eyes before, or hear it or confirm. The evidence has to be so irrefutable that there is nothing to the contrary. Like they have no way of it just has to be irrefutable evidence for them to finally come to the acceptance that, wow, what I thought to be true was actually false.
Yeah.
You know?
That tells me a little bit about our reality, If
Mm-hmm.
like if someone told you like, hey, you're not Jerome, your whole reality, you're just not who you are. Like, how would you handle that?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like, I'm not Jerome, who am I? Like you wouldn't handle it right? It'll be shocking.
Right.
So I understand June's way of reacting somehow. But then at the same time, I see Kyoshi being in the middle, the whole dilemma all the time, because she really didn't come from a place of, wanting to be a big or wanting to be something. She was just always humble
Right.
and grateful for whatever she had.
Right.
And yeah, to get that news revealed to you, and plus now everybody is in your business somehow. So your
Mm-hmm.
closest friend, like Rangi, for example, she didn't know about Kayoshi's situation, that she was half earthbender and half waterbender, for example. So
Right.
those things, she would have kept them secret if she wasn't the avatar, because
Right.
they didn't matter to them. They didn't matter to them.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a whole friendship thing, and it was just like political dilemma in between, and they didn't know what to do. Like just like when they are by themselves, they're doing something else that aligned with themselves. And then
Mm-hmm.
they go out, it's more like a political thing. Now we have to protect all these people, and yeah, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
responsibilities.
For sure. And with those responsibilities and with that, that newfound notoriety, that infamy, and even you would call power, you know, it's like sometimes you would think that some of the best leaders are actually the ones who never crave for the power, you
Mhm.
know, that some of the people that are actually placed in a position do the best in that position because that wasn't even the position that they were going for or gunning for. Like she didn't want the power.
Mhm.
So now that she has the power, now that she has the responsibility,
Mhm.
right? With great power comes great responsibility. Now she's able to utilize it in a way for the highest good because it wasn't her highest aspiration.
Yeah,
Do you
yeah,
feel what I'm saying?
yeah. And I know what you mean. And she would lead in an organic way
Right.
rather than like, impulsive, greedy, like Jen Su. Have a hard time with his name. Like his leadership, even though if it is so profound, it has so much ego in it.
Mm-hmm.
It's so much it wrapped around ego. So if you can see it like leadership based on ego, that's that. And then you have Kayoshi that she just don't want to be in that
Yeah.
position. So with the heart, that's led with the heart, I think, more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Can you empathize, with Kayoshi being in a position that is a position that, you now find yourself with great responsibility, but this wasn't a position that you were really gunning for or really trying for or really had ambition behind this position, but now you're in the position, so now you have a mission.
Hmm. I think she
You,
knows the importance of the mission though,
okay.
because living under the same roof with Jen Su or Kelsan, I think she have learned a lot. Like she knew the responsibility an avatar needs to take, even if she wasn't an avatar, right? She always
Mhm.
empathized with everything else, even though she knew she wasn't the avatar, right? For
Mhm.
example, her mother being an airbender, and airbenders are supposed to be, very, very respectful and very like nice. And for her mother to do the things that she did, she was always like um, not guilt, like ashamed of sharing her mother's story, for example, right? Because she was an airbender that did something that airbenders don't. So
Mhm.
she kind of understands the responsibilities, even though it wasn't hers. So um, yeah, she knew the responsibilities. So it was in her. It was in her basically.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Speaking of her mother and father, there was a whole dynamic that was with her and Bullet Leg,
Hmm.
where it was like the conflict of she not really being raised by them, but him kind of adopting them as his parents,
Hmm.
you know, and having them, they saved his life. They trained, they raised him in a way, and in a way he got a relationship with her parents that she never had, you
Yeah.
know.
I thought that was very interesting. But then at the same time, I think Kyoshi needed that journey on her own to become who she
Mm.
is. Because if they raised her, maybe it would be different. And I'm actually
Right,
looking forward to their reasons in another story. Because I think there was a reason behind leaving at 6 years old in a
right,
village. I was six too when
right.
I was left. I was six
Say
too.
again.
I was also six when I was left on my own.
Oh,
So
oh, what?
mhm, I was actually six. But for
Mm.
her to feel like, oh my God, they raised him, but not me, that made me think of like, okay, they were not just running away from kid, but there must be a reason why they left Kyoshi behind. That's the only thought I thought about. Yeah. So
So you can actually resonate, having that life experience, having that lived experience of being six, when that happened. You reflect back. Do you do you see it in a different way today?
I can relate in how you know, just thinking about that little journals that she had. That's the only thing that she was holding on to all those years, right? The journal from her parents, wasn't it? Or did I misunderstand that part? There was
Yes.
something, yeah, there was a journal with all the information about her parents and whatnot that she was holding on to. And for a 6 year old to know that that's a secret and that's gonna, that's something that you will use when you get older. That was like
Mhm.
something that when people look at a 6 year old, they never think that a 6 year old would think that way, you know? So I can relate to that and think like, I can understand her way of thinking or her way of being ashamed of certain things that she tells people. So
Mhm.
yeah, I think if she didn't have that experience, she wouldn't be the same leader as she is.
Right. 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 So without these experiences, without these trials, there would be no wisdom, you
No,
know?
yeah. I think it's the times when she's set with herself. Because when you are on your own like that, you will sit a lot with yourself.
Hmm.
And then you have your own thoughts and you always think and think. So that makes you like wiser and wiser. Does that make sense?
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
It does make sense. It reminds me of, some of my favorite characters like Lao Ga, and then even in Star Wars, like Yoda, Master Yoda, and then, in different genres, there's always this one character that has so much wisdom, but then you look at their actions, you look beyond their words, and you look at what they do, and they're usually in meditation. They're usually sitting with themselves. They're usually in contemplation. They're usually, off alone or in isolation, and they find so much through that isolation, through allowing themselves to sit. And I
Hmm.
think there's parallels when you think about it.
Yeah.
You know?
But if you think about like I didn't even have a choice. It wasn't for me throughout my life, it wasn't like, oh, I had to sit down. It was
Okay.
I just happened to be sitting down, and being in my
Oh.
own thoughts, right? So I think the more you are with yourself and you kind of like become friend with your own thoughts and you learn how your thoughts work. Sorry about that, my phone.
No what?
The wiser you get because of then, you don't get wise by reading books and finding information from outside. You gain wisdom by finding from within. So the more you
Mm-hmm.
spend time within yourself, the more you will gain. So if you think of Kyoshi as a 6, 7 year old, always planning, always
Mm-hmm.
planning ahead because you don't have anybody else planning for you. And when people have parents, their parents takes off that burden, right? Of thinking about things, and then you have the freedom to think about nothing. And it's actually, I mean, like not nothing, but not something that gives you not responsibilities basically. So when you are by yourself, it's always like your own thoughts.
Okay.
I'll turn my phone off a little bit because yeah, yeah.
So
Now,
that
yeah.
so just as we're talking about being by yourself, there's a quote that I wrote down where Kyoshi talks about if Kyoshi could keep only one lesson she'd learned in her 17 or so years of life, it was that your choice of traveling companions was the most important decision you ever make. So that was the choice of traveling companions, the people that you have in your circle can actually affect you more than we realize,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. That is so true. That is so
Mhm.
true. It had so much impact on you. Like, I know we're not talking about this traveling, but um I like to travel by myself.
Mhm.
I like I can go to different countries every month by myself because I find traveling with people as a job. It's like now I
Mm.
have to deal with this person's attitude, this person's energy, this person's way of being, and this. So to have like a person that would just flow with you and blend with you is very difficult if you're
Di-
conscious.
difficult.
Mhm. It is very
Mm.
difficult because if you don't want your energy to be interfered with, you have to have somebody that's flowing with it, right? So I
Mhm.
remember the other day when I wrote like, oh, I wish I had someone like Rangi and Hey Ron and them traveling with me or let go because it will have you grow, you don't have to think about it flowing with you. You have someone that's got your back, you have someone that has some wise words, you have someone that's it's always like even if you are in the darkest place, they are your light,
Mm.
so yeah. So it is important. So I understand where she's coming from with that. They influence you in a different way too, because let's say like if they were egoistic and very selfish people, you also become that because you get
Right.
influenced by that. Yeah.
Right.
So
Right. Right. It reminds me like all the pranic retreats that I've been on, you know, had I not gone on that first retreat and something within me told me to go, even though I didn't have the money per se, I didn't really like have the money. I used money that I have just to have the opportunity to get around people that I might never, experience being around people like this who are thinking like this, who are living like this, who are operating within this lifestyle that the other people that were in my circle at the time had no idea,
mm,
that was even possible. So just to have the synergy of a group like that, picking and choosing your traveling companions, it really does rub off on you,
yeah,
you know?
yeah.
It really, yeah.
When you're picking and choosing too, it's the picking and choosing that is the important thing because
Hmm.
you wouldn't have that within you unless it resonated with you because you're just looking for
Right,
your frequencies, right? That's
right.
why I always say I don't like to be bothered. I just want it to flow. So it's like if someone has a different way of thinking, different way of it's colliding with my ideas, my way of being, it's not a flow. It's always some
Mm.
obstacles, right? So when I say like, oh, I don't like to be bothered, it's like just let it flow. Just let the conversation flow, let life flow, let everything flow. But if we are not
Mhm.
aligned, obviously it will never flow like that. So that's why you have to find your own frequencies, especially when you're traveling. Especially when you're traveling. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I love that you say that, Nabiha, the way that you say that, finding your frequencies, finding your own flow within others' frequencies, and you being, pranic bee, right? The pranic bee that's used to being, when you're around other beings that might not be being, but they're mostly doing, and maybe even around always chewing, right? They're always chewing, they're always doing. It's different than being around other beings that are just being.
Exactly. Can you see the flow? When someone is just being, it's just being. When someone is doing, they're disconnected.
Mm.
They literally disconnected because you can only do when you're disconnected. Because when
Mm.
you disconnect yourself from being, you go into the doing. So when you see people that are just doing and I'm being, there is no frequency that aligns. Does that make
Okay.
sense? So yeah, I understand Kyoshi's way of thinking that way. But also you can tell that she just wanted flow. Like when you think about it, Lao Ge, he wanted to teach her how to meditate. He wanted to teach her his ways. But he wasn't offering that to everybody else because everybody else was seeking the immortality. They wanted
Right.
to be immortal. They wanted to achieve this, this, this. So they had a goal with it, right? While Kyoshi was like, whatever, whatever you do, just come to me. So that's when you're flowing with your frequency. So he realized that that is his frequency. And
Okay.
she can align with it because of he don't need to teach her anything. There's nothing to teach. So
Mm.
when someone come to you and tell you, come teach me, when you know there is nothing to teach, you know how to decline them, right?
Okay.
So
Mm. Beautiful explanation. You made me think about that because even when she's around other people, like the flying opera company, and they have experience doing things that even with her element of earth, they have
mhm.
experience doing things with earth that she had no experience with. You know, just being around them in close proximity, they expanded her imagination. They broadened her horizons with
Mm-hmm.
dust, you
Mm-hmm.
know,
Yeah.
and they taught her how to do something that she thought was, I guess, physically impossible with the earth element.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm. I
they're,
love
they're
that. That's
floating, they're not air.
yeah. I know.
So, yeah.
I think
So,
in past life I must have been able to art step, dust step. That's the first thing I was thinking about when I was reading. I'm like, it sounds like something I have done before. So it was funny.
and it's interesting too. I love that segue as well, Nabiha, because you said in a past life, you know,
Mm-hmm.
Avatar, the series itself, really deals a lot with past lives, and it
Mm-hmm.
deals, not just ancestors, but really past versions of you, you
Spirits.
know,
Yeah.
spirits like beings that you can communicate with too,
Mm-hmm.
that you can have conversation and communication within meditation.
Mm-hmm.
You
That's pretty
and
much my
consult.
life.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. You go ahead.
So that was your.
No, I said that's my life. Like I find that normal to think like, okay, I'm communicating with spirits like constantly, like on an every day. That's what we're doing. And like coming from a past life, I was just telling my cousin right now when I got to the library, there were some ladies that came out and they had some dresses on, like they were from maybe early 80s or something like that. And I told her like, you know what? Last time I was here, I must have come from the 30s. Something like that. Because I have a time that I'm thinking about, like, okay, whatever I left off at that time at the 30s, that's what I'm acting on right now. So I can step into different timelines and really believe that, okay, there's a spirit from the 1930s that's acting right now. There's this spirit from this year that's acting right now. So I believe that.
Mhm.
And we
Mhm.
communicate with spirits all the time. Who are you communicating with when you're meditating?
Right. I mean, we communicate with spirits, other beings. We communicate with each other,
Hmm.
right? You
Yeah,
know,
only spirits.
and synchronizing with the heart. We're never that far apart.
Yeah.
You know.
Right.
So when it comes to the form of inner conversation, but also communication with spirits, and different manifestations of us, manifestations of ourselves in the past lives, as it were. There was something that I wrote down, a quote from The Shadow of Kyoshi,
Hmm.
and it was talking about how there's 1,000 generations of past lives in the avatar cycle. You
Mm.
could spend 1,000 years talking to us, and you still wouldn't know how best to guide the world. This is what you must forego: the easy answers. You must give up your desire for someone to tell you your choices were correct in the end.
Mm, I love
So,
that.
I mean, that really hits you. How does that quote hit you? You know, when you're consulting.
Like it's just like what I was saying right now. I really believe that that's what we're doing all the time. You know, I don't believe in that giving away a desire or like a maybe that is true too. Maybe that is true. Like sacrificing. You know how they say you always have to sacrifice something.
Mm,
Um, yeah, we do that every day. Just letting go of a habit is letting go of desire, right? So
mm,
it is like if everything is a distractions and you want to connect with the spirit, like you need to let go of the distractions. You need to tap into that frequency of hearing, right? Like some of the avatars also couldn't communicate, couldn't connect with the spirit. You had to be an avatar to connect with it, by the way? Or
right. Avatars, they are the bridge between worlds.
and the
So they
spirit.
do bridge the physical and the spiritual. But there were some avatars that were not really connected with the spiritual as much as others.
They were not receptive, yeah. So isn't
Yeah.
it the same for us as well? Like the more receptive we are, the more we like the information is coming in. Like
Mm-hmm.
everything I say, things that I explain sometimes, I know it's not mine. I know 100% is not mine. There is something
Mm-hmm.
coming in. But the more I am receptive, the more I am aligned with myself, the more receptive I become. So that's the part of like letting go of desires, letting go of things around you, you
Right.
know, in order for you to be connected. So most of us are distracted. That's why we are not connected. But I think we are all a bridge between spirit and this world. So
Right.
yeah.
Right. It reminds me too. There was a scene in Avatar: The Last Airbender with Aang,
Hmm.
and Aang was talking to one of the mentors he had on the journey, Guru Patik, and Guru Patik was at one of the airbending temples, in one of the air temples, teaching him how to open his chakras. And he was going through all the chakras, from all the way from the root all the way up. And once they got to the crown chakra, the last one, he couldn't open the last one because he still had attachments. He still had desire
Yeah.
for Katara. And it was his desire for Katara that wouldn't let him unlock the avatar state at will and reach, I guess, what they called like the ultimate avatar state, was his attachment to something in the material world.
Hmm.
So in aspect, it was like something in the material, a person, an attachment in the material was keeping him away from evolving in the spiritual.
That's true. Wow. It's funny because right here on my note it says, can one be free from attachments?
Wow.
Yeah. Can we?
Wow. That's a good question.
Yeah.
You,
I don't
know?
think we
Because
can.
didn't Kyoshi go through the same thing with Rangi?
Hmm.
She had the attachment with Rangi, and Lao Ge even pointed it out. You
Hmm.
know, he was Lao Ge knew who Kyoshi was talking about. He said, "Your hesitation seems to be less about your own morals than hers. In fact, without your firebender tethering you to this world, you might feel no compunction at all. Perhaps that's why you feel guilt." And
Wow.
I was like, whoa. So he was talking about, her attachment with Rangi,
Yeah.
saying that, you wouldn't feel anything about this if you weren't still tethered by that attachment.
Yeah. But you can also, yeah, Lago, I love him. He really analyzes people. He really analyzes people. You know, he's just in his little corner, observing everything. I love that. But it's true because if you think about the two forces that Kyoshi had, like for example, if June, what happened to June didn't happen, would she go through what she went through?
Right.
She was attached to June, so the
Mm-hmm.
force and the love that she had for him created a hate towards June. I know then June who did that to him. So her force was towards that. There was nothing else about being the avatar or this or going on your mission just as an
Mm-hmm.
avatar. She went on her mission with the force of her attachment, which is June, right? And then the second book, you can tell that she's very attached to Rangi.
Right.
And like even Rangi is telling her, hey, on this area, we don't touch each other. Okay, don't touch me. Don't touch my face. Don't just stay away from me, you know? And then when they fly up in the air and she touches her, she feels like some type of like, oh, now I'm free, you know? So in some ways, I think about if Rangi wasn't there, how would Kyoshi act? What kind of force
Mm-hmm.
would she have in order for her to, complete her mission? So the people around us do have an effect on us and how we actually do our missions. But sometimes, is the other person the motor? Do you have your own motor?
Right. Right. So what would you say, coming from your own experience, what would you say that is a stronger force? The love that you have for somebody to move you, or if you're not attached, you know, being moved from something else, being moved from something internally and not from someone externally. Which one do you think is the more powerful force?
Like, I don't think one is like you should have your own force. In order for you to drive your own car, you should have your own motor. You shouldn't have been depending on other all the time. So the one that you make yourself is always better. But I don't see anything wrong with, getting a little force, a little push from externally either. If someone tells me like, oh, you can't do that, that's when I do it. Like I will go for it when someone tells me you can't do it. But that's an external force. It wasn't like if I was just sitting in my bed or sitting in my chair somewhere thinking I have to do that. I don't have that force. I can't create that force. But if someone told me like, I don't think you can do it, I would have all the energy to just say, go ahead and do it, right? So it's not bad, but at the same time, I think being independent is better than being dependent on someone.
Wow. Thank you for that answer. You know, that's that's not an easy question.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, did you have any more notes from the rise of Kyoshi, or did you want to
Um, the
go
rise of
into the
Kyoshi. Yeah, we can get into another one if you want to. I think, most of my notes are done. I wanted to get into, yeah, what was it about this spider extract that
that changed their the spider extract? Go ahead.
Mhm. No, it was this spider extract concentrated it drops for the
That, their,
eyes. Yeah, for the eyes. There
yeah,
was
yeah. What?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that why spider and why snake. What do you think? Why do you think they chose that?
Yeah. I mean, I know that June was trained with different poisons,
Hmm.
and the waterbenders are more of a tribe. They're
Hmm.
tribe, so it's like the water tribe. It's interesting because every element in the show and in the books, every element, not only do they have different disciplines, they have different temperaments, they
Mm.
have different personalities, they have different ways of living, they have different cultures, and they have different lifestyles.
Hmm. Yeah.
So, there's the Fire Nation, the Earth, or the Air Temples, and then you have the Water Tribes. You
Mm.
know,
Mhm.
the air, yeah, the Air
Everybody.
Nomads,
Yeah.
right? So the Air Nomads is freedom. That symbolizes freedom. Then there's the Earth, which symbolizes stability and substance, right? Rooted, grounded.
Yeah.
You they're very straightforward. They're very direct, even in their bending style. They're not, all over the place like this. They're boom,
I
from
know.
point B. So
Yes.
then the Fire Nation is all about power and destruction and this and that. Some people in the fire use the fire for warmth or use it for healing or use it for different ways. Then, when you have the water tribe, you have the people with the weapons like boomerangs and hatchets and axes, and then they have piercings in their ears and their eyes and their nose and stuff like that. And they're very tribalistic.
Mm-hmm.
And they have ships that go across the sea. So with that, I think that's kind of coming from those customs of, they're using things that may have medicinal purposes, but may have other purposes as well.
Yeah. Also, the choice of it was like, to me, like, why would seafood do that? You know, that was the choice of the person that they had. But
Yeah.
yeah, I noticed those differences between all of them too. And when I was reading, like, oh my God, I am the avatar. Because I can put myself in those, I can put the, it's like when you can actually balance all those elements, you are the avatar. Because that's what we're supposed to do here too. Like the fire teaches you like more of control,
Right.
how to stay focused and somehow like, if you have some anger or whatever you have, how to control your temperament, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a normal thing that we do. So we have that fire element within us, right? And then the sense of freedom of being, the air nomad. We have to have that sense of freedom. So when we balance all those elements, I think we are whole as well. So the avatar
Yeah.
means just balancing all of those moods and attitudes and cultures, and they should be existing within all of us,
So,
right?
so yeah, I love what you said there, Nabiha. It's like our represents a holistic human being, you know?
It does. It does. And with all these practices and all these meditations and knowing, all this wisdom and everything, I really think it's just displaying how a human being should be, you know? Because if you think about it too, like all these elements, like the earth, the water, the fire, all of it, we are made out of it.
Mm-hmm.
We are of the element, So just to balance that and know and understand like your elements within yourself, you can better understand them on the outside as well.
Right.
Yeah.
And also, understanding the elements not only within your, but on the elements on outside,
Hmm.
you know, elements outside yourself, because there was a there was a quote that talked about, oh yeah. So it says that there was that one scene where Kyoshi found herself in a hallway in close quarters with different enemies. There were opponents that were very close to her, and they were in like this with walls. And she said the dirty secret of airbending Kyoshi had learned through experience was that it was absolutely devastating in close quarters. Surrounded by hard objects, the gentle art of monks and nuns turned utterly brutal.
Mm.
Brutal. So, being able to know through experience and through your environment, your awareness in your environment, noticing that there's all these hard surfaces, using what should be a art, what should be a defensive art, what should be a kind art of
Hmm.
airbending,
Hmm.
using it for destruction, you know, for
Like, yeah,
mayhem. That's amazing. Like to have that application applied to something. So there's like opposites within the same thing.
yeah. It's a soft killing, a hard killing. It's the same thing. It's like the air, hit them with a rock, or like take the air out of the lungs. You're
Right,
doing it gentle, you're doing it hard. It's the same thing.
right,
It's the
right.
same thing. Yeah. But
Yeah.
that's which one is more dangerous? The settled one.
The
Getting
subtle
hit,
one.
yeah, the settled ones are dangerous ones. To me, I believe that, instead of like getting hit by a rock,
Mm.
just silently like somebody take the air out of your lungs, that's worse. That's worse. And it was done so gently. It doesn't
Right.
make sense, right? Like it kill you gently. But yeah, even though the air nomads are like represent freedom and peaceful and stuff like that, they still using the elements in that purpose in many other
Mm-hmm.
steps. So
Or when the waterbender, the master taught her that ability to freeze
mm,
somebody that was right in front of her, right? So she could use that ability to slow down someone's heart rate, or she could use that ability to keep someone alive,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So the same ability, the same water bending ability that was able to slow the body down to a level where they could heal them, they could still heal them, was also the same one that if done too forcefully or if done at full power could immediately destroy somebody and just freeze them and they're gone.
Yeah. Yeah. That sounds about life. It sounds about life. It's a lot of things that are like that. That's why I believe everything needs to be balanced. Really.
Okay.
Like you can
Okay.
have, that's why I when I see people say, I'm eating this healthy thing and I'm a healthy diet and they're just eating something they think is healthy, healthy, healthy over again, that becomes unhealthy, right?
Mm,
So too much of the same thing that you think is good can be, so it's in the balance of everything. There's nothing that's better than this and that. So yeah, balancing these elements, like I really believe that we can do all of this if our mind was settled, if we were
mm.
aligned with these elements, because I don't see why not. I really
Right.
don't. Like for us to airbend, for us to be able to fly, or for us to be able to control this fire with our energy, because it's all energy anyway. Like how can I not control a fire on the outside of myself? Because I'm not aligned with
Right.
myself. It shouldn't make sense that we can't. All of this is just happening and we are just happening to it. While actually it's just supposed to be in flow. You should be managing all of it. Balance. Yeah.
Mhm.
That's what I believe
They,
though.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I mean, they have worked for it. Like there's people that they focus on one area and they're able to grow and multiply their skills in one area because they harness all their focus and their energy in one area.
Hmm. Hmm.
There's people that have demonstrated, they call aerokinesis, and using the air, they call it aerokinesis. The,
Hmm.
fire bending, they call it pyrokinesis. Water bending, they call it hydrokinesis.
Hmm. That's what we're
So there's,
supposed to learn.
yeah, I mean, we're doing it. There's
Yeah.
people doing it.
I mean, like from
Yeah.
birth, somebody was
Oh,
like, if from birth, if somebody was telling me. Like I used to think like if I would have another kid, I would just go away from here and then just being in a different element, really, that is away
mm,
from this distraction because it's a distraction that makes us dense.
mm,
It is a distraction. Just like,
wow.
yeah. And it comes in all
That,
kind of shapes, just like information, air, everything. We're being just attacked somehow. But yeah, let's see if we can be Avatar in this lifetime. Yeah.
yeah, why not?
Yeah, why
Why not?
not? Why not? I really like it's not even something that I feel like it's um magical. It's like I'm sitting right here, I'm looking at that tree, I'm looking at all this dense stuff, and I'm just thinking like, how come I'm just so dense? Why am I not flowing with it? Why am I not able of do the things that I'm supposed to do? Why am I just dense? Why am I just parked? Because that's how I feel like we are.
Mm,
Just parked. We're not in flow with the universe. We're in flow with society. Yeah.
wow, wow. So we got to choose our companions wisely.
Mhm. Exactly. Exactly. You want the society with you, you want the Mother Earth with you. So it's two different things. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You remind me of Nabiha. I remember Elitom would tell us like finding a new lover, like
Hmm.
learning how to love the energy is almost like rekindling a relationship with a long lost lover. He said like mostly we've been in love with the dense things,
Hmm.
you know. We've
Yeah.
been in love with consumption. We've been in love with different forms of consumption. but he's like, you got to find a new lover, finding a love with the subtle forms, the subtle kind of forms of things that have already been here. They're already there.
Yeah.
It's just becoming more aware to what has always existed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely just choosing wise because I was at Starbucks not long ago and this lady came and she looked at a cookie and she said, "Oh my God, I just love that cookie. He just doesn't love me back." And I looked back at her, and it's true. She was complaining about how much she loves that cookie, but doesn't love her back. Do we have to stop loving things that don't love us back?
Mm.
Really? Not really. It's so funny, but it's the truth. It doesn't love you back. I never thought of it like that because I've never loved no cookie. But I never,
Right.
I never thought of it like that. It's like I want it, I get it. If I don't want it, I don't want it, you know? But as far as, oh my God, I love that cookie. No, we never had a relationship. We never had,
If you
okay.
never had a relationship, you never had a breakup.
No, we never broke up. Cookies and sugars and stuff, we never broke up with me, you know? Like you there, I see you, but it's not my thing. Yeah. Yeah, it's not my thing. Like I was thinking about it today. I'm like, oh my God, there is not a day that passed by that I don't think I'm abnormal, like I'm weird, or not like
Mhm.
the rest.
But didn't Kyoshi feel the same?
Yeah,
She felt like an outcast,
yeah.
like a black sheep, like the odd one out.
Hmm. And when Lagos told her about the meditation, he's like, instead of keeping everything, let everything out, like nothing. And she said, "Oh, I could be nobody. That's one thing I know."
Mm.
There was something in those lines that she said, like, okay, the easiest thing that he said was like, just be nobody. And she never seen herself like anything special like that.
Hmm.
That, yeah. No, every day I think about it. Like, because I'm so tired of just thinking that I have the same thoughts and people think the same way. And I just go about my day thinking that way. But we are
Hmm.
different. All human beings are different.
Absolutely. You know, what you say, Nabiha, these are very also Taoist philosophies, and Taoism, it talks about this.
Yes.
Lao Tzu is kind of like Lao Ge in a way, where these principles from like Zhuangzi and Lao Tzu, the greatest man is nobody, you
Mm.
know,
Yeah.
and becoming nobody, and he who possesses little or nothing at all possesses everything,
Mm.
right? They're the paradoxes. It's very paradoxical to think about becoming nobody, you know? Yeah.
It's not so paradoxic to me. I completely understand. It's just like that's
Mm.
my aim. I don't want to be nobody in a sense. No, seriously, it's a burden. And it's like
Mm.
if you are going away from an attachment, what would you go for attachment? You know?
Mm.
It's like everything is an attachment. You're attached to becoming somebody. You're attached to believing that you are something. You're attached to thinking this. But at the end of the day, it's nothing.
Mm.
There's nothing to become. There's nothing you already are. So when you accept that you are, then you are that nobody. There's nothing. And you are happy. You are on that. You are everything at the point. Once you
Okay.
understand that, you are everything. But as long as you think you can become somebody, as long as you want to become somebody or become something or some, it's just an attachment. And you don't even know where you're heading. Where are you
Right.
going? It's just accepting of being here because everything is here, right? Accepting
Mm.
that just you having those questions and taking this turn of, doing this, it's the right place for you. But just becoming something else, then you don't know what you're doing.
Right. Right.
In a sense, it doesn't make sense because I can't think of like, ooh, I want to become something. Like, what in the world do I want to become? I want to be free from everything, that's for sure.
Mm.
But, even that I need to let go of thinking that I need to be free from something because I'm accepting that I'm trapped. And I'm not trapped. I'm as free as I can be. But it's an idea of me thinking, oh no, I need to be free from this, free, blah, blah. No, I need to get free from thinking that I need to be free.
The idea itself.
Yeah, the idea itself. So when you let
Wow.
go and you don't have a perspective connected to freedom itself, then you are free. When you don't have no definition of the word freedom, you're free. Because the
Wow.
word has no definition, There's not one definition for the word freedom. Because your freedom and my freedom are completely different. May not be as so different, but from other people,
Hmm.
someone's freedom is your prison. So be
Yeah.
free from the word free.
That's deep.
Yeah.
That's deep. That's deep right there. Thank you for this. Thank you for another conversation, and just we never know where it's gonna grow. It just
Mhm.
goes wherever it flows. And I love that it's always been so effortless with you and I when we talk about it.
Should be like that, right? Just flow and be in the present. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can become avatars. So if you want to talk about the other book, we can continue with that because I really had fun with the other one this time. Last time it was difficult for me to go through. I like the third book and the first.
Hmm.
Yeah, but yeah, I just finished the other one yesterday. So
Yeah, geez, you read so fast.
no, it's just I have time.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's, it's just time. Walking reading is the most beautiful thing I can do nowadays.
Wow.
So I love that. Thank you for introducing me to that.
Hmm. My
Um,
pleasure.
yeah,
So yeah, we'll resume, next time we'll continue and we'll talk about the next one. Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Let me know if you want to do like on the weekends. That's okay for me, and
Hmm.
we go from there. And then let's
All right.
let's find other books that are similar. Okay. I would love to talk about those things more than like, a normal book because they have a lot of good stuff in there then, you know, in my thoughts
Mhm.
every day anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway,
Let's keep it going.
thank you. I see you next week.
Oh,
Yeah. Saw your
all
picture there.
right.
Okay, bye.